Hey everybody, Jody here. Today I wanted to make a little video about one of the fights in Sepulcher, the first ones, Lords of Dread. And specifically, I've heard this going around, that Lords of Dread, you need the Weakaura, right? That the Weakaura is that fight's not doable without a Weakaura. And it's just not true. And I'm gonna kind of go over why. Not only can you do the fight without a Weakaura, you can do the fight without voice at all. This is probably old news, I don't know, but I haven't seen a video specifically on this, so I figured I'd go ahead and make one for it. Like, why not? We're about to go into Dragon Flight, pre-patch, just in time to do a Lords of Dread fight. So in Lords of Dread, the big thing that the Weakaura thing is the Among Us phase, right? It's like, oh, you gotta have the Weakaura so that you can click the vote button. Otherwise, how do you know who to kill? And there's a very, not necessarily simple, but there's definitely a way to do it without the Weakaura. So let's just select the bosses over here, whatever. Grades all fighting them and whatnot. And then Among Us happens, and then I'm going to use some markers. So we're going to say the star players, X players. In this example, so the way that this debuff works when Among Us happens is that 5 players get chosen. 3 players will see 2 players with the demon, and these other 2 players are going to see 2 of the 3 players. They won't see this third one. Usually what happens is when they vote, it's like, oh, there's 2 votes on this person, 2 votes on this person, 2 votes on this person, 2 votes on this person. You need the third one. Everyone's waiting for this other person to give a 3 votes to the 2 imposters. Everyone uses a Weakaura, or not everyone, but a lot of people use a Weakaura. It just gives you if you're the star player, you would just see X, you would click their name and hit the vote button. But there's a way to do it without it. You may have already seen just how I kind of set this up. When Among Us happens, what you do is you can set a designation, usually somewhere in the center of the room, is somewhere for the players to go. And what happens is that, let's pretend that these are the marks, right? That the star and X markers are players with the debuff. And the idea is that if you see someone with the wings, if you see someone with a debuff, you start heading over to triangle. Right? And just as people head over to triangle, and if you don't see anybody, you just hang out. Just chill back. And then all you need to do then is move away from the people that you see with the debuff. So these X players, they see these star players have the debuff, so they will move away from them. Same way these star players are going to see that these X players have the debuff, and they will move away from them. And you will just naturally you will just get this 3-2 grouping just by doing that, following that instruction. So go over to this triangle area, and then kind of just don't stand with players that you see the wings on. And this will just happen this way. And then kill the X players. You don't need a Weakaura to do this. You don't need comms to do this. What you do need, and this is kind of the tricky thing with this fight, you do need a player who gets the debuff to realize that they have the debuff. And that they know to move to this location. That they know to move away from the players they see with the debuff. So that it still requires players to be understand this mechanic and how it works, but it doesn't require you have a Weakaura installed. It doesn't require you being comms with anybody. This is just a very short video of how you can do this fight without it. And the main reason I wanted to bring it up is just because this fight is probably, I think, one of the best designed fights in all of Sepulcher. Mainly because there's a lot of guilds I've played with and a lot of pugs I played with where it's just oh, if you don't have the Weakaura, this boss is just undoable. And that just mentality of oh, you just need a Weakaura to fix this is not a good mentality to have. Because being able to just look at this situation, look at, there's 5 debuffs, 3 good players, 2 bad players, how players can self-separate and solve this. That's if you were a guild that could figure that out without a Weakaura, that's a really good sign. That's really good at problem solving. This fight's going away soon. This doesn't matter, but think about that next time that you have this fight going on, and there's like, you know, first week of the raid, all this fight seems really hard. We just wait for a Weakaura to solve it. Like, try to figure it out. These fights, all these raids are puzzles for you to solve. And WoW fights are generally designed in a way that even if you know the answer to the puzzle, executing the puzzle is really hard. It's just a thought to have next time you're doing a fight and there's a mechanic that's seemingly impossible without a Weakaura. Check to see. You know, there might be a little trick out there to solving it. The other thing I kind of like with this one is that if you get in a situation where you're like this, right? Let's say the star player has not entered, and these players have kind of separated like this. Let's say that X players, they see this person, and they don't see this person doesn't have wings. The X players do not see wings on this person. And that kind of tells them that the X players are it. Because that means that the other person with wings is not in this group yet. And if both these players can see these players cannot see this person, but this person can see these two, that means that this is part of the good group and then these are the bad group. If you're the Among Us, there's going to be of the group that you're seeing, there's going to be someone that you don't see, because you can't see 3 players, you only see 2, and there's 3 good players. There's going to be one player that the Among Us people do not see. That is the kind of deciding factor. And that player, if that player ever shows up, then you just immediately know that that's the good group, and whoever that player sees are the Among Us players. All right. That's it for this fight. That's full explanation.